So last night, just as I had gotten off of my stream, guess what? Ben Shapiro decided to weigh in on Andrew Tate. Now, it's been a long time coming because I don't think that he's ever has, which probably is why it's called here is what I actually think of Andrew Tate. You know, the context clues, guys. I'm a smart guy. But I'm curious because here's what I expect Ben Shapiro to say is that Andrew Tate's like moral philosophy is antithetical. Did I use that word right? To his own, because Andrew Tate doesn't advocate for like strong, connected, respectful relationships, but also he shouldn't have his freedom of speeches taken away. That's what I'm expecting. But let's see what we got here.
So I have a lot of younger listeners who are big fans of Andrew Tate, who really enjoy Andrew Tate. Now, the big news over the course of the last couple of weeks is that Andrew Tate, for those who don't know, Andrew Tate is a very online guy.
True, he's very terminally online.
Who was a lightweight kickboxing champion, I believe, and he's become big in the so-called manosphere. He was banned from YouTube, I believe. He was banned from Twitter.
Yeah,
and
true.
He was banned from these.
I think he's unbanned on Twitter. Am I right about that?
Things because he was a self-described misogynist, right? Somebody who believes that men are superior to women in pretty much every possible way. Well, over the last couple of weeks, he got in an online fight with Greta Thunberg in which he was tweeting at her about how he had Bugattis and lots of gas guzzlers and he was heating up the climate. And then she tweeted back at him that he had a small dick. It was all very silly. And
crazy.
And then one day later, he ended up being arrested by Romanian authoriries.
Yeah.
And the allegations against Andrew Tate is that he was engaging in sex trafficking.
Yeah, it seemed like there was. This is like an older allegation, but like they arrested him again. I don't know, man. I mean, listen. Here's my thing, bro. Big red flag here. Come on. It's a big red flag here.
According to the New York Post, police.
I mean, you got a guy who moved to Romania for two reasons. One, so that he can, in some capacity, use his money to engage in corruption. He even said, like, so he can get out parking tickets or getting arrested or this and that and the other thing. Number two, to escape the prevalent Me Too movement in the Western countries. And in that country is where he gets hit with the charge that would align with Me Too. And I understand that it's just an allegation, but this isn't just an internet online, you did a thing allegation. I mean, this guy's got arrested, twice now? So, I mean, it's very suspicious. I guess, reconsider your heroes, guys.
In tactical gear descended on a villa where Andrew Tate and brother Tristan were staying Thursday to detain the British brothers on kidnapping and rape charges. Judicial sources told Romanian outlet Libertatea. Video shows the officers with battering rams and guns sweeping through the dark villa before escorting Tate into a car. The brothers in April had allegedly detained two young women, one with American citizenship and one Romanian, inside the villa against their will, where they were subjected to physical violence and mental coercion, according to the authorities. Police said the Tates allegedly formed an organized crime group and sexually exploited women by forcing them to perform pornographic demonstrations for the purpose of producing and disseminating through social media platforms.
I mean, listen, here's what I'm going to say. Again, on his website, his Hustlers University, he removed this, but he had originally had it said that he would get women to fall in love with him so that they would do webcam stuff for him. And it's just suspicious language. All I'm saying is, like, it's just very sussy language to be running around with.
The brothers had been questioned for 5 hours by the police back in April, but were released at the time.
Yeah.
And then they're currently still being held in Romania right now. Now, Tate had predicted for a long time this would happen to him. He had predicted that people were going to come after him, that they were going to arrest him. Does that mean that he's not guilty of something? I have no idea.
No, he didn't predict it. Get out of here, Ben. Don't do that. Don't play that game, Ben. That's not what his predictions are. He never predicted any of this. What he had said is that the Matrix was going to come after him. He's using it as a way to push the idea of a conspiracy theory against him to take him down specifically because he is so impactful on the world. Like he didn't predict anything. This guy is just saying that, see, the Matrix is going to come after me. You know what I mean? Someone's going to come after me. You know, it's like, okay. It's just, it's a game. He's playing a game. And it's called grifting. He's playing the game called, like, he's trying to instill a conspiracy narrative into people's brains.
I have no idea whether he's guilty of these crimes. It could be trumped up. It could be the Romanian authorities who are embarrassed by Tate. It could be anything. I don't place a lot of stake in the law-abiding nature of the Romanian authorities. I literally know nothing about how the law... I mean, Andrew Tate literally said he moved to Romania in order to avoid law enforcement. So I don't know whether that's true or whether that's not. I assume all of that will come out in the wash. The thing I want to focus on is the popularity of Andrew Tate for a moment. Okay. And it's fascinating because, again, I have a lot of young listeners who are interested in the stuff that Andrew Tate says. Okay. The reason they're interested in the stuff that Andrew Tate says is because he's transgressive. He's transgressive in that he says things that no one else will say. Some of the stuff that he says is, frankly, terrible. And some...
Well, I don't think... He doesn't really say things no one else will say. He just isn't very respectful. And most people that are his age are more respectful, even when they say things that aren't necessarily the status quo. So.
The stuff that he says is not terrible. Some of the stuff that he says is actually a version of truth.
Okay.
I mean, when he says that promiscuity is generally a bad thing.
He doesn't really say that, though. he says that men should be able to cheat on their, just like, Ben, you can't do this. He says promiscuity in women is a bad thing, but when it comes to men, they should be able to do what they want. He's literally praised Genghis Khan like a historical rapist. I need you to understand this. Like, if he had said promiscuity is a bad thing for both men and women, I'm on board, because it is. When you look at the outcomes of relationships, the more bodies you have, the lower or the lower the reported happiness rate is after a period of time for both men and women, right? So it's like probably good to keep your body count a little bit lower. Also STDs, but to sit here and talk about how like that's not, it's a version of the truth. It feels a little afraid, Ben.
He says it only among women. Or he says when he says promiscuity for women is a bad thing. That used to be a relatively uncontroversial thought, but it's been considered bad to say that now. It's wrong. It's banned.
No, it's not. It's not. That's not what he says, though. Ben, come on. He uses that to justify male cheating.
Now we live in a moment because we are so censorious online and sort of in the political world. We're so censorious. The Overton window has shrunk so much that there are two concepts that have been crimped. One is truth, as in like Pope Benedict XVI truth, like things, eternal things of value that you're not supposed to say anymore. A man is not a woman. Men should marry women. They should have kids, right? These are things that are now considered very controversial in the elite circles of the West. You're not supposed to say any of those things. So truth, like capital T, long-standing truths, these things have been denied. And then there's also been stuff that's been denied that's just kind of garbage, like stuff that's not nasty to say or yucky.
Like what?
And so what's been crimped is courage, right? People are afraid to say the truth, and they're also afraid to say their opinion because they lack courage, because the social sanctions are...
Okay. So now Ben is focusing. So Ben is intentionally misrepresenting what, and he knows he's doing it, what Andrew Tate is saying, and now he's trying to say that he's courageous. I want you to be very explicitly clear that Ben is afraid that Andrew Tate fans will not like him. And it's specifically because he's like, yeah, he did some bad things, he did some good things, very general, and then he talks about promiscuity. And he specifically zones in and he explicitly says that, see, Andrew Tate talks against female promiscuity. Sure, but like Ben, why wouldn't you call him out for not applying those same values to men? Ben is a really smart guy. He's certainly smarter than I am. So he knows what he's saying when he doesn't actually say like, yeah, but it's wrong that he doesn't also speak against the promiscuity of men as well, because he's afraid of the audience. At least that is so far. And now he's going to jerk him off for, oh, he's so courageous. Oh my God. Andrew, he's just such a courageous guy for saying whatever he wants. To be honest with you, when it comes to multimillionaires saying whatever they want on social media, you're not exactly brave or courageous. I mean, like, let's be absolutely real here. There's nothing courageous about it.
They're so strong. And so because the social sanctions are so strong, and because they go beyond just crimping the truth, they go to crimping pretty much everybody's feeling that they can even say anything, their opinion, jokes. Because of all of that, courage is now held in higher value than truth itself.
Okay.
Being willing to transgress lines is considered a highest value, because in a time where courage is under attack, courage is a very, very high value. Courage is always the first value. I mean, C.S. Lewis says.
Personally, my favorite courage is the Cowardly Dog version. It's very good.
Courage is the first value, Christian. Courage is the first value in order to speak the truth. But courage is instrumental. Courage is useful so that you can speak the truth. What's happened in our society, because we have decided to shut down so many modes of speech, because we've decided to ban people from social media and unperson them and destroy their lives and their livelihoods, because we've done all of that, people who speak loudly are considered the best and the bravest. And it's particularly appealing to young people. And so when you draw a lot of fire, the way that Andrew Tate does, a lot of people see that as more courageous than if you say something that is, say, a little bit better calibrated and more in consonance with eternal truth. Whoever draws most fire, in other words, is the person who's considered the most courageous.
Okay, I get what he's saying. All right, and I kind of somewhat agree. I get what he's saying here. He's talking about how, bro, listen, here's the problem, though, right? Is that what Ben Shapiro is saying is that because Andrew Tate says his truth, it's courageous because he's at risk of being canceled. Now, this is a guy who's a multimillionaire, so even if he got canceled off social media, nothing would happen. The reality, though, is that there's another thing to consider, and it's that being incredibly divisive it's instant success. Like, people will put eyes on you if you say incredibly antagonistic or divisive things. It's really not that difficult to say, woman gay, woman bad, woman stupid, and then get views. You know, it's not that hard. And so we sit here and call it courage, but what I call it is dumb. It's just him saying provocative things and disrespectful things about women and holding, two different standards for men and women in such drastic, disrespectful ways. And little boys going, oh my God, LOL based. That's it. It's literally, Andrew Tate is literally just 2020 TikTok, but in reverse. Or so, you know what I mean? Like back in a few years ago, it was the feminists, fake feminists dunking on little boys. Now it's the manosphere dunking on like little girls. Like that's pretty much all it is. It's just fucking. He's Cloudforming. It's really all it is.
And the sort of pithy saying that is mostly true, but kind of not, right? That you must be over the target if you're drawing flack.
What?
a large percentage of the time that's true. But sometimes the person who's drawing the most flack is what they're saying is actually kind of bad. Right? So the problem for Andrew Tate, and the reason why he's become so popular, is because he's very transgressive. He says the thing that no one else will say. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's really not good. We'll get to more on all of this in just one moment. First, the situation in Ukraine continues to be extremely bad. That war apparently is just going to go on for the foreseeable future. Well, whatever you think politically about the war, there are a lot of people on the ground in Ukraine right now who are suffering. My friends over at the International Fellowship of Christians.
Good. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. There you go. Donate at benforthefellowship.org. Very cool. Fellowship for the Christians and Jews. I respect it.
People who are suffering this brand new year, head over to
Shapiro to 41444.
Fellowship.org or text Shapiro to 41444 and give it generously. And so we're going to look at some of the things Andrew Tate says because, again, he's a very popular figure, particularly with young men. Okay. When people ask me about Tate,
I'm a little apprehensive here. We got 6 minutes left in this video, and he's going to look at some of the stuff Andrew Tate says. And I want to be very clear: is he has the ability to curate everything that he gets to look at. So I'm hoping Ben doesn't play a game. This is why it's usually better to just watch the entire interview of like him and Piers Morgan. You get an array of things that he says that you can kind of flesh out. But finding specific clips makes me a little apprehensive.
One of the things that I've said this to some teenage boys who are friends of the family.
Whoa!
They asked me about him like, I don't know, a week ago. What I said is some of the diagnoses that Andrew Tate has of secular society are correct.
Okay.
His prescriptions are largely incorrect.
Okay.
And the things that he puts, he has a list of rules, and many of the rules that he puts online are actually pretty good. Okay. And then the way that he acts, right? His version of masculinity, which is have a bunch of kids by a bunch of different women, live in a castle with 30 Bugattis, right? Put pictures online and muscle, like this kind of stuff. That's not the traditional mark of masculinity. What Pope Benedict XVI would say, what I would say, what sort of members of the traditional wisdom cadre would say, is that the ultimate in manliness is get married, protect your family, provide for your kids and your family, provide a space for them to grow in safety and security, provide them roles and responsibilities. This is the role of a man. This is what a man does.
I agree with that.
What Andrew Tate focuses mainly on is the critique of how society has undermined a lot of this stuff. And then his prescription is, I'm going to put a picture of myself online with like 30 cars and it makes me look cool, it makes me look masculine. Hey, I also like cool cars. Cool cars are amazing. But because we have lost eternal truth, because we have decided as a society the eternal truth has to go, the backlash is not coming in the form of a restoration of eternal truth. Very often the backlash is coming in the form of punch the people in the face who destroyed the eternal truth. That's the society in which we're living. And I'm afraid that could get worse unless what we actually have is a return to some eternal truth. So here's a couple of clips of Andrew Tate, and it kind of shows you what I'm talking about, that some of what he's saying is kind of half correct, but he's saying it in such a way that is meant to draw fire.
No, don't say, I don't like that. I don't like the meant to draw fire, because Ben, that's a justifier. What Ben is saying is he's saying, well, there's half truths to what Andrew Tate says, but he's just trying to draw fire. So what Ben is saying is that Andrew Tate is intentionally saying provocative things for attention, which implies that there's a downplaying of what Andrew Tate actually believes. But if you listen to Tate, he has said things like, for instance, and I know Ben would agree here, with me, but that if in Afghanistan the Taliban have taken over and they have removed women's rights to go to university. That's like college over there, right? Pretty sure. Andrew Tate's first thing when he was asked about that is, okay, well, if women are so strong, like all the feminists are saying, go fight for it back. That's not an advocation for being strong. That's an LOL dunk. And then later on, he refuses to say that it's a bad thing and just says, I want to stay out of it. Now, it's fine to say that you want to stay out of it, but to not give your moral prescription like this is wrong says to me that you think it's okay, because that's what he thinks. And he thinks that he has this fundamental concept that if you have the strength to do it, you should be able to do that thing. That's not how you're supposed to act. That is antithetical to what a man is. A man doesn't act with the power they have. A man is reserved in the power they have, and they only use it when they need to. It's not a hard, it's not a big, difficult take to be like, hey, women should be able to go to school. Like, it's not a hot take. Everybody should have equal opportunity. They should have access to equal opportunity. If you can do a thing, you should be able to do a thing, whether you're a man or you're a woman. That's it. That's the reality. That's all that really matters. Okay? When Andrew Tate goes on and he starts glorifying Genghis Khan, a historical rapist, this is a problem, because he's like conquer all like mentality. It's ignorant. It's dumb. When he talks about cheating for men is something that he's even said is morally good on that same Piers Morgan podcast. That's not good. These are disrespectful aspects here, right? We can have nuanced conversations about the different reasons that men and women cheat, generally speaking. But to sit here and say it's a morally good thing and to justify a man cheating on his wife, I don't understand. Like, it's insane. So like it's this type of language is a little bit like, it's not dangerous, but it's so disingenuous. It's just it's a lot of this language is like just kind of suggesting innocence for Tate in some capacity. It's making the people that love Andrew Tate, the little boys that follow him, go like, oh, Yeah. See, I get what Ben's saying. They just disagree. Where it tries to justify it. It's everything's just a joke. Like, it just justifies this. Everything's just a joke narrative. Oh, he's just being intentionally provocative, but he means what he says when he's constantly pressed. We can't just engage in a conspiratorial narrative that everything he says isn't so bad if you just pretend it's not. Because a lot of people are getting a lot of bad messages from that. And even if you think Andrew Tate doesn't mean it, which I guarantee you he does, it's still sending an incredibly wrong message to the majority of the people who are listening to it. Especially when they consume him in clippable bites instead of actually consuming his whole content.
So here is Andrew Tate talking about women belonging to men.
I don't know, because I think the women belong to the man. I think the woman's given over to the man.
That's inherently where you get called sexist.
No, it's not. Well, you can call me sexist if you want, but if you look at marriage, it's the bride's father who gives her away. It's not the groom's father. The woman is always given over to the man. Read the Bible, read the Quran, you can go to
you're walking down the aisle, no chance. There's like African cultures where they don't do that.
I'm sure there are some obscure tribes somewhere.
Andrew Tate isn't religious. I don't know. Like, I know that he's saying that he's Islamic now, but he's not actually religious in any capacity. This is one of the popular things that people in the manosphere do, is they will live lives that do not align with the values of religious institutions, and then they will use religion as an excuse, because the manosphere and religion tends to be more conservative, so they feel like, oh, I can just kind of jerk this off. But he's absolutely he doesn't agree with like these religious ideas. My understanding is a lot of religious texts, Christianity, Judaism, the idea, at least the modern day idea, is that like, yeah, a man is the head of the household, but a man at the head of the household is working for the household, and there are different roles that are treated equally. That's how you're supposed to engage with that, right? Andrew Tate doesn't believe that. Like, if you watch this whole interview, it's just him like being a fucking idiot the entire time. It's just him talking down on women. It's just him like, there's a moment like OnlyFans and stuff where he talks about it, like taking ownership of the OnlyFans of the girl that you're with. Like, it's just weird. It's one thing to have them pay for more things so they make more money, but for him to take ownership of it, he's like, I take 80% of the OnlyFans if my girlfriend does it. Why do you need to take a percentage of her OnlyFans if you're your girlfriend? It doesn't make sense. It's not like a normal, healthy relationship dynamic. Whereas if you're just like, hey, my girlfriend makes money, she can pay for stuff, that is healthy. But this weird ownership and control is fucking bizarre.
I mean, I can't say I'm not a professional.
But you get it. You seem like a very smart guy. You seem like a smart guy. You're saying a woman is the property of a man if they're dating.
I'm not saying.
And a man is a property of woman as well.
I'm saying they're a property. I'm saying they're given to the man and they belong to the man.
That's property.
It doesn't mean they're a pure property without emotion.
That's all you look at?
Notice the contrast here. So Portnoy is so afraid of saying,
oh my God,
that a woman and a man belong together, and that a woman.
No, that's what Andrew Tate isn't saying. That if you watch more of that clip, they actually say, would you like apply that in reverse? And then Andrew Tate disagrees.
When she gets married, now belongs to the man sexually, in the same way that the man ought to belong to the woman sexually. That's
not what Andrew Tate's saying. He's not going back and forth with that. He's specifically talking about the woman being the ownership of the man. Ben is such a dishonest little dickhead here.
This is literally Genesis 2:24. Right? For this reason, a man will leave his father and his mother and be united to his wife, and they will become one flesh. And Genesis 2:24.
That's not what Tate says. He doesn't.
So that would be the eternal truth. That is the truth according to every mainstream religion.
Ben Shapiro's a fucking pussy.
That would be the thing that you would say. And
it's ironic he's calling out Dave Portnoy for basically being too afraid when Ben Shapiro's terrified of Andrew Tate's audience. What a fucking child. Holy shit.
The reason for that, from an evolutionary biology perspective, is because when a woman joins with a man and they create a baby, the woman is sure of her parentage, but the man is not sure of his parentage. And so we as a society tend to prefer monogamy, right? This is the evolutionary biological reason why humanity embraced monogamy.
I thought it had a lot to do with land ownership and exchanging and working together, but maybe he's right.
Because
I guess
it is the best distribution of sexual resources.
I don't know if that's necessarily true, but okay.
It's from an evolutionary biological perspective. It's not a moral perspective. That's just evolutionary biology. Brett Weinstein, Heather Heyer talk about it. Heather Heying talk about it.
Okay.
All of this is very well established. When it comes to morality is that a woman should not be promiscuous and a man should also not be promiscuous.
Right, but Andrew Tate doesn't believe that. So
now this is the part where Andrew Tate gets the diagnosis right, but he gets the solution wrong. So here's Andrew Tate talking about how women should not be promiscuous. It's bad for them.
Well, a woman could say that same thing if she decided. She could say, I can sleep with multiple men, but my men can't sleep with multiple women if she so choose. We're all free individuals, right?
Yeah, but you wouldn't agree if a woman said that.
I don't think I would personally find that revolting, correct? But there are women who find what I say revolting.
So you're not telling other people what to think. You're just saying how you think.
Yeah, I mean, if I think that I think if a man is sexual is not sexually exclusive. It's not the same as if a woman is, because with a woman you have the paternity issue. With a man you don't have a paternity issue. Look, read the Bible.
Ben Shapiro's playing the paternity issue thing. Okay, that's why he brought up paternity. He's like, well, this is historically why you lock people down. Okay, now I understand why Ben brought this up, because I'm like, historically, maybe that's a factor, but I'm pretty sure historically it had a lot to do with like you would use women usually as like a tool to barter for different resources and whatnot when it came to marriage and stuff. But Ben is really relying heavily on this idea of marriage being a union that the primary motivation is to make sure that it's the man's baby. And it's because he wants to agree with Andrew Tate here as to why it's different for men and women to sleep around. Because Tate, Andrew is Ben is afraid of Andrew Tate, right? That's what's happening here. Now I get it.
Bible, every single man had multiple wives. Not a single woman had multiple husbands. It's against the will of God. It's disgusting. In the eyes of God himself.
Okay, I see.
Okay, so again, historically speaking, what Andrew Tate is saying is not wrong. Morally, the reason why church, where we talked about the capacity for change within eternal rules, moves towards monogamy as opposed to polygyny, right, where a man has multiple wives, the reason for that is because the sophisticated arrangement of one man and one woman is the best arrangement. And so it is not...
I think that's probably true, sure, but okay.
Good. When a woman...
Because I remember watching Ben Shapiro talk to Matt Walsh about marriage, and they never really brought up the individuality when it comes to this like worry that it's the man's father, or the man is the father of the baby.
Is promiscuous. It also happens not to be good when a man is promiscuous.
Sure.
Those may not be equivalent in evolutionary biological terms, but that is why eternal morality suggests one man, one woman. So the point that I'm making here is that when the moorings of a society come loose, when the society starts to sort of float, when the iceberg is floating, is no longer moored to anything that keeps it stable. Once that happens, the reactions tend to be extremely chaotic. You get an entire movement on the left that is incredibly destructive, and you get a reactive movement that gets a lot of the diagnosis right, but a lot of the diagnosis wrong, right? It gets a lot of diagnosis right and a lot of prescription wrong, right? Okay. We have many problems in our society. Those problems continue into the realm of male and female. It encourages bad behavior by women, but then the answer to that is not bad behavior by men. The answer to that is better behavior by women.
It encourages bad behavior by women? Bro, what are you talking about? Like, dude, the bad behavior he's probably referring to is like the promiscuity of women. But the thing is that like women used to be shamed for their promiscuity while men weren't. Andrew Tate isn't engaging in a reactive movement. Andrew Tate is he is, but it's not reactive against like the worst parts of feminism. It's reactive against any part of feminism. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. But people generally shouldn't really be promiscuous, but you should have the right to do so. Andrew Tate just thinks that women shouldn't do it, but men are totally okie-dokie doing whatever the fuck they want. He's a reaction to women getting any level of equality to men. Equality means you get the good and the bad, but he reacts negatively to the bad when women do it, but when men engage in the bad, he thinks it's great. He thinks it's great that men should be able to go around and fuck as many people as possible. But that's not going to create a healthy long-term relationship with somebody and help you raise a kid. He's not going to be able to be a good father. You won't be able to be a good father if you're cheating on your fucking spouse. That is an absolute destruction of trust. Everybody likes to sit here in the manosphere and play this game where it's like, guys, listen, men have biological imperatives to want to breed, right? Well, so do women, of course, but men want to spread their seed. Sure, right? And so they'll say that's why men should be able to fuck whoever they want and women shouldn't. But the reality is that if you want to engage and maintain a relationship, we have to stop acting like fucking animals. We're men, we're not dogs. And this suggestion that we should be like, yeah, just go around and coming everywhere. You're just treating people like a fucking dog. Men aren't dogs. It's actually sexist to push this dumb fucking ideology. Because men require things like emotional security. Look at like Liver King. You guys can meme on him all you want, but his like primal fucking 9 primal tenets. One of them is like basically community. One of those tenets is like closeness, is like building bonds with people. It's a real thing that men need. Men need bonds with women. It's very positively impactful. So to sit here and be like, oh my God, men's entire existence is about cum is fucking dumb. It's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Men need emotional support and security as well. Right? If a guy goes and cheats on their wife and it's like something where they leaned into whatever, they made a really bad decision and they did it just physically and blah, blah, blah. Sure. If they want to forgive that person, I get it. That's a conversation between them and their wife. right? I understand men and women cheat differently usually, but this is an open advocation for this thing in like a positive way. And Ben is such a fucking terrified little baby that he's not actually calling out Andrew Tate. He's just desperate to agree with him so that he can jerk off the audience and like not upset them. It's just this cowardice at its finest. This is what I'm talking about. I always bring up this chart. This is the end. This is the chart. It's like the true Tate supporters are here. Then all the 15-year-old boys, like all the young men who like the edginess, right? They love the edginess from Tate are here, and this is all the coward content creators, right? That just sit here and go like, well, there's some good things, while they don't actually call out the bad stuff. So, like, this is where Ben is. Ben is a coward. He's being a fucking coward. Like, grow up. Well, you're afraid that some people, oh my God, Ben, yeah, that's my virus, man, Andrew Tate. Like, be a fucking man, Ben. Holy fuck.
And better behavior by men. This is, so if we're going to have a restoration,
yeah, hurry up.
Restoration. All right, guys, the rest of the show is continuing.
Yeah, this is boring as fuck. Holy shit, that was insufferable. Okay, cool. Thanks, Ben, thanks for cowering to Andrew Tate. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. I don't know, man. Cheating is cheating. Gross, dishonorable. Yeah, no, I agree with that. What I'm saying is that, like, generally speaking, men are more physical when it comes to like their sex, and women are more emotional when it comes to their sex. So, like, I generally would say that like a woman cheating is probably a bigger sign that the relationship is over than a man cheating. Right? Now, these things can go both ways. There are men who are more emotional. There are women who are more physical. But, like, that's what I'm talking about.
I want Papa Gut to pee on my face, but just as a friend. There's nothing weird about that. I want him to pee on my face.